Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of How Did I Shoot This One? And this one is a little bit more elaborate because we're doing actually 3 sets in one video. But it's not 3 sets, it's only 1 set. Let me just show you in the video and let me just explain how this all worked together. But this is the end result. Okay, during the workshops, it's always fun to create stuff that's a little bit out there. And what I mean with out there is, I always compare it like this. If you want to run a marathon, you don't practice with just walking your dog, right? You practice with running 3 marathons and then you can do 1. And this is why in the workshops, I always try to at least add 1 set that has a little bit of a problem. And in this case, the problem is, how do I dare call it a problem? It's a guitar, right? I'm so sorry. So adding a guitar to a shot makes a shot really difficult because we have a few things that we have to take into account. First, the guitar is of course reflective. The neck is reflective, the headstock, the body, everything reflects. So you have to make sure angle of incidence is angle of reflection. So you don't want a lot of light hitting the guitar and aiming back at the camera because, well, then you get these white spots and that's terrible to take out. So angle of incidence is angle of reflection. The other thing is, of course, the guitar is pretty big and our model isn't that big, so she has to pose with it. And another problem that you will probably already guessed is the guitar is pretty long. So that means that if you look at your composition, you have to make sure that everything fits nicely in. So do we just take the guitar like this and just play around with it, or do we angle it towards the camera, use a wide angle and use it as a leaning line? Do we place it straight on and then the composition doesn't work with the head? Do we place her in a chair or on a... So many problems, so many things. And that's the cool thing about workshops, because we're not stopping there, we're going much, much further. So how did we start? The first thing that we tried out was actually an idea from one of the attendees, and we get a chair. And I already thought this isn't going to work for the very simple reason. Watch this. I'm going to grab a guitar. I'm just going to pick a smaller guitar. And remember, I'm a big guy. So when I pick a guitar up and I'm sitting on a chair, I am pushing it into myself. And with me, it's okay. But imagine the guitar being larger and you're sitting like this. That doesn't really work, right? So when you put it like this, the composition also doesn't work. I'm out of the frame. But when I place it like this, now I have the strong leading line of the guitar. And that's exactly what we're talking about during the workshop. So the first setup, just place the model on the chair and create a lighting setup. Now for the lighting setup, this was a classical masters workshop, and in the classical masters workshop, I love to work with Fresnels. Now I have to do a little bit of a detour here. When you buy a Fresnel, you will find out very quickly that a Fresnel is an awesome light source, but it can be very, very expensive. When I started out, I used the Ellengram Fresnels and they were about 2,500–3,000 euros. So very, very expensive, but a beautiful light source. The problem for me was that during the workshops, I can't really show you an image with a Fresnel that is 3,000 euros because a lot of people can't afford it, right? So I was very happy when I got the Nanlite Fresnel in. This one is only 149 euros. Is it just as good as the Ellengram? No. But it gives you the same quality of light, the same idea of light. On the edges it's a little bit more funky, in the middle it's great. You just have to live with it, and in all honesty, for 149 euros I think it's a great modifier, so I love to use it in the workshops. But what is it that a Fresnel makes so interesting, that I'm so enthusiastic about it? It's the way that you focus the light. With a normal softbox, you have diffusion panels that actually diffuse the light, so it creates a softer quality of light. When you look at the normal reflector, we have something inside called the coating, and the coating just reflects the light back towards the viewer. Towards your subject, of course. And you can use silver, for example, for really nice harsh shadows, or you can use a white surface for slightly softer shadows. Don't let anybody tell you that a white surface looks like a softbox. That's ridiculous. It's still very harsh quality of light. But as soon as we start using the Fresnel, there's something weird going on. If you zoom the Fresnel, you will find out that you can create a very harsh spot in the middle with just some soft light around it, or you can create a very nice soft quality of light. Now in this case it's a classical masters workshop, so I wanted a little bit in between. And that's the cool thing about the Fresnel, you can actually place it slightly in between. So we have We have a slightly hotter spot on the face of the model, and then the light just feathers out over the model. Now, for the first setup, this created a very, very dark image. Now, you might think, let's open up the shadows. And this is something, don't do that yet. Because with Classical Masters, we also want a slight backlight, of course. Because that's something that they did a lot in those images. And I absolutely love it. You can use it as an accent light or as a lens flare. In this case, we're using it slightly as both. So, first light is, of course, the Fresnel. The second light is actually a slight light from the back. And in this case, I'm using a GT200. It's just a small hybrid strobe and no modification. So it's just an open strobe aimed straight at the camera. And that's the important thing. I don't aim it at my model, I aim it at the camera. And that means that the sides of the light is always softer. We call that feathering the light. So the side of the light will hit my model. And the most powerful part of the light, and also the harshest light quality, will hit the lens. Meaning the hairs of the model don't get that nasty, almost synthetic feel that you get when you use hard light on your model. It gets that nice soft quality of light from the lens, from the side of the light, the feathering. And the camera gets all the power of that powerful strobe, and that creates the lens flare. So I'm using actually a little bit the strobe in two different ways. So, model on the chair, one light behind my model, and of course we have our main light source. And this is where we get into problems. Normally when you have your accent light, you have to steer that light, and you can do that, for example, with a grid. And with a grid you are literally just aiming your light from this to this. And when you use two grids you can actually do it like this or use a snoot. But in the old days, what they sometimes used, and they used it a lot actually, were flags. And during this workshop I also showed the students how you can use flags to actually flag off your lights. Now there's a few things that you have to take into account when you use flags. Flags are just pieces of cardboard or original flags that you place in between your model and the light source. Now what you have to remember is if you use flags, place your light slightly further away from your model. The reason is actually pretty simple. You can use the flag to just flag off some of the spill light. For example, if you find that there's too much light hitting the knees of your model, you just use the flag and you flag that area off. Now, the thing with flags is, if you place it really close to the light source, you will get a very nice edge transfer. So it goes from light very, very slightly to darker, and then the light is gone. The more you move the flag towards your subject, the harsher or shorter that edge transfer will be. So let's say you place your lighting on 3 meters far away from your model, then you place your flag at, let's say, 20 centimeters from your model, that's insanely close, you will get a very distinct line, light, dark. Now if you place that same flag in the middle, you get a very nice soft transfer between the light and, of course, the dark. So in this case, we experimented a little bit with flags during the workshop, but as soon as we started introducing the guitar, the whole set fell apart. Because sitting on a chair for a model and holding a guitar, it just doesn't work, because the model will fall a little bit in. It looks like a little ball, and we don't want it. So we changed the chair for a simple sitting, how do you call that? A stool. Thank you, Henrik. So a small stool. This means that the model is forced to sit up a little bit more straight, and now the guitar fits. It's still a great guitar, large guitar for a small model, but it still works great. Now you have to realize that this model doesn't play guitar. So we played around a little bit with poses, and in the end I opted for one where she just laid her hand over the neck and this one just a little bit down. So it creates a nice looking image, and with gloves you can't play. So anyway, it looks a little bit weird if you're a guitar player, but bear with me, it's just a shot, right? Now that she was on the stool, we wanted to create a little bit more atmosphere. And what is the first thing that you do when you want to create atmosphere? Of course, smoke, right? So we use a smoke machine. Now let me give you in between also a tip about smoke machines. You have a few different kinds, and the most used smoke machines in studios are actually water-based and oil-based. Now I will give you one advice right away. If you use an oil-based machine, that's okay. If you use the smaller handheld ones, like we sell in our store, they're small and you can use them handheld. They can even blow bubbles and everything, and that's okay. But if you use the bigger smoke machines, they puff a lot of smoke, and that smoke will also go through your strobes if you use a strobe with cooling. And you don't want oil inside your strobes. Now the water-based machines, they take a longer time to warm up, and they cool down pretty quick, so they're very annoying to work with, but it's all water-based. So if that goes through your strobes, you don't have any problems. You don't have any problems at all. You can just use it to your heart's content. So in this case, we're using the smoke machines. Now, with smoke, there's a huge problem. Smoke acts as a mood maker, a diffuser, but also as a reflector. Think about when you drive in your car, you turn on your headlights, it bounces back from the smoke, so you get a big white wall. So that means that when you use your light straight on your model, and especially when you place your light far away, there's a lot of room where the smoke can accumulate and reflect back that light. So that means that if we use smoke in a setup where we have the light far away and aimed straight at our model, we want to make sure that we only use smoke on the back of our model, not in the front, because the front will immediately show up. And don't think you're smart by just adding a little bit of smoke in the front. No, because that smoke will be pure white and everything else will look darker. And you go like, what the hell is that? Did you add that in Photoshop? No, it's real. Wow, AI looks better. We don't want that, right? So the first thing you have to do when you start using smoke is, of course, make sure that your main light source is under an angle. Because if it's under an angle, it doesn't aim straight at the smoke. Angle of incidence is angle of reflection, also works a little bit with smoke. But smoke really comes alive when you backlight it. Now, in this case, we didn't want big smoke plumes and like a disco or a live concert. We just wanted a little bit of smoke to give some atmosphere. But I love colors and I love a moody shot. So what did we do for the final shots? We moved our first light, the Fresnel, closer to our model, aimed it straight at our model, and just changed the focus slightly, so we have a little bit more of a surface to light. And now I'm using 2 strobes from each side, or in other words, 1 strobe on each side, sorry. One is blue, one is red. I just love the blue and the red colors. And those are aimed at the camera, so not at the model, aimed at the camera. And that means, again, like with the normal strobe, the model is lit with the sides of the strobes, giving it a beautiful soft quality of light, feathering, and the camera gets all the power of those strobes. So you can create beautiful lens flares, and you can light the smoke a little bit more aggressively if you want. In this case, we kept the smoke really low key. And after that, it's just finding that right position. Now, in all honesty, I'm a guitar player, and the images look a little bit weird for me. But you have to realize that we shoot these images during a workshop. We shoot them with a model that doesn't play guitar, that sees the guitar for the first time. So if we shoot something like this for a real artist, of course the poses will look much better. Bear with me for that one, of course. So let's take a look at the behind the scenes video so you can see first the setup with the chair and a little bit of the flags, and then we gradually build up to the final shots. And bear with me, it was a little bit difficult, of course, to get everything in. Because again, working with a guitar that's that large, a model that's sitting, doesn't play guitar, and you have to fit everything in, yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge, both for composition and of course for lighting. So let's go to the studio with our model and the guitar, and let's see the behind the scenes video. As you can see, a pretty complicated lighting setup. Everything has to be exactly right, find the angles. And with the guitar, and that's something that I do want to point out, the guitar, of course, is much larger than our model, also in the area that you light. So sometimes with a guitar, you need a little bit of extra. And did you notice in the video that I talked about 3 strobes? And in the video you actually saw 4? Good, well spotted. You get an extra point. We used 1 extra strobe. And that extra strobe is actually also a G-Koto GT200 with, in this case, a Rogue dome. Now, what is a dome? Now, when you look at your normal strobe output, it will direct the light straight forward. If you use a softbox, it will direct the light straight forward, make it diffuse, and then go to the front diffuser and create a beautiful soft quality of light. When you use something like a lantern, it will aim the light straight forward, through the sides and through the front. But if you have a smaller light source, and you still want to light the whole set, or at least part of the set, you need something that makes the light omnidirectional. Think about a light bulb. A light bulb emits light all around. And that's actually what the dome does in a certain way. You place it on your strobe and it just spreads out the light nice and evenly. But it also takes care of some of the hot spotting. It's not a perfect abracadabra solution, but it works like a charm. So in this case, when we took the shots, I found out that the guitar, for my taste, was too dark on the body. And we were trying it with angles, and as soon as you angle it, you immediately, of course, see that big angle of incidence is angle of reflection. So, just to light up the body of the guitar, I'm using 1 strobe aimed down and just use the side of the light from that dome to light a little bit on the guitar, just opening up the shadows of the body. And that created the final shot. Again, the poses of the hands, bear with me, not a guitar player, that looks a little bit weird, but in essence it's all about the technique of lighting. And I hope that in this video you got a lot of tips about how to place your lighting and what to look for in a setup that is a little bit more complicated. See you again next time. Bye guys. Subscribe, like, and play guitar. See you next time.